You are in a room full of people. Someone says your name, then someone says something about you. You are not sure whether it is a compliment or a joke, but you feel it before you can decide what it means. A wave of heat climbs from your chest to your neck to your cheeks. Your ears start to burn. Your face is turning red, and you cannot stop it. Everyone saw it. You did not flex a muscle. You did not decide, I will now advertise my embarrassment to every person in this room. Your body just did it. And the most humiliating part is that the blush itself makes the embarrassment worse. You blush, people see it. You get more embarrassed, you blush harder. It is a loop with no exit. But here is the strangest thing of all. No other animal on earth does this. Dogs feel guilt. Cats feel fear. Chimpanzees feel shame. But no animal turns red with embarrassment when it is caught doing something wrong. Charles Darwin spent years collecting letters from missionaries and doctors all over the world, asking whether any people or any animals blushed. He asked about African tribes, about indigenous Australians, about children in England, about patients in asylums. The answer he got back was always the same: only humans. Darwin could not explain it, and he admitted that openly. He called blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. So why would evolution give us a signal that betrays us at our most vulnerable moment? Why would natural selection build a camera flash into the human face? A visible announcement that says, I am embarrassed, I am exposed. Everyone look at me. Why would the only creature on earth that can hide its feelings inside language and lies choose to paint them on its skin for everyone to see? The answer is the opposite of what it feels like. Blushing is not a weakness. It is not a bug. It is one of the most sophisticated social tools ever built into a living creature. It is a truth serum, an apology, a shield, and a handshake, all happening in about 4 seconds of involuntary heat. And the more scientists study it, the clearer it becomes that the blush is not a flaw in our design. It is the very thing that holds human society together. Let me walk you through it. First, let us talk about what a blush actually is. Physically, when you feel embarrassed, your sympathetic nervous system, the same system that triggers fight or flight, sends a signal. But instead of making you run, this signal widens the blood vessels in your face. More blood flows into the superficial veins of your cheeks, your forehead, your neck, and sometimes your ears and upper chest. The blood is red. The skin is thin, and the result is visible color. This is called vasodilation. It is the same mechanism that makes you flush when you exercise, when you drink alcohol, or when you are furious. But a blush is different. It is triggered by a social thought, not by heat, alcohol, or rage. There is a researcher named Peter Drummond at Murdoch University who has spent years studying the vascular details of blushing. His work in the 1990s showed that blushing involves a rapid increase in blood flow through the veins of the cheeks, and that this response is triggered by psychological states, not by temperature. Drummond also found that blushing can be blocked in the lab by drugs that stop the sympathetic response. That is proof that blushing is a genuine physiological reaction to social cognition. It is not a myth, and it is not a figure of speech. It is measurable blood moving through measurable veins because of a measurable thought. Here is the weird part. The same nervous system that is supposed to prepare your body for danger is producing a response that makes you more visible. You are not hiding. You are glowing. It is the only fight or flight response in the animal kingdom that paints a target on your face. Your body is doing the exact opposite of what survival instincts should do. It is drawing attention to you at the moment you most want to disappear. Why would evolution do something so risky? To understand that, you have to understand what blushing is actually for. And for that, we need to go back to Darwin. Darwin published The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals in 1872, and he devoted an entire chapter to blushing. He was fascinated by it, and he was puzzled by it. Blushing had no obvious survival value. It did not help you fight. It did not help you flee. It did not help you find food. If anything, it made you more conspicuous to predators and to rivals. Darwin could not explain it. He collected stories from around the world, from missionaries who watched people blush in the tropics, from doctors who watched patients blush in hospital beds, from mothers who watched their children blush at the dinner table. The pattern was universal. Everyone blushes. Only humans blush. For more than 100 years after Darwin, scientists kept poking at the same puzzle. Why would a creature evolve to reveal its own weakness? And slowly, the answer emerged. Blushing is not a signal of weakness. It is a signal of something more valuable. It is a signal that you know you made a mistake, that you care about the group, and that you are not a threat. Let me give you the psychology. Blushing requires something that almost nothing else on earth has. It requires theory of mind. That is the ability to understand that other people have thoughts and judgments about you. To blush, you have to be able to imagine how you appear in someone else's eyes. You have to hold a picture of yourself in another person's mind. That is why babies do not blush in their first months of life. Their brains have not yet developed the ability to imagine being judged. It is also why no other animal blushes. They do not have the same machinery for seeing themselves from the outside. Ray Crozier, a psychologist at Cardiff University who has studied blushing for decades, describes it this way. A blush is what happens when the self becomes the center of attention, the moment you feel exposed, the moment you feel that others are evaluating you. Your body produces a visible announcement of exactly that feeling. It is as if your insides cannot keep the secret. Crozier points out that people blush about different things in different cultures, but the underlying trigger is always the same. It is the awareness of being seen. Now, why would that be useful? Would it not be better to hide your embarrassment? Peter de Jong at the University of Groningen spent the 1990s and early 2000s testing what blushing actually does to other people. His findings turned the common view upside down. When someone blushes after making a mistake or breaking a social rule, observers judge them more favorably. They see the blushing person as more trustworthy, more sincere, more apologetic, and less dangerous. The blush works as a non-verbal apology. It says, "I know I did wrong, and I feel bad about it," without saying a single word. In 2002, de Jong and his colleagues ran an experiment using a prisoner's dilemma game. This is a game about cooperation and trust. Two players decide whether to cooperate or defect, and the outcome depends on both choices. In the experiment, one player committed a moral transgression against the other, and then either blushed or did not. The observers consistently judged the blushing player as more trustworthy and more likely to be forgiven. Think about what that means. The exact same action committed by the exact same person produces completely different judgments, depending on whether their face turned red. A blush is worth more than an apology. It is an apology that cannot be faked. That last part is the key, because words are cheap. Anyone can say, "I am sorry." Anyone can promise to do better. Talk is free, and everyone knows it. That is why apologies are so often met with suspicion. Is this person actually sorry, or are they just saying what they think I want to hear? A blush cannot be faked. It is involuntary. It is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, the same system that makes your heart beat and your lungs breathe without your permission. You cannot decide to blush. You cannot stop a blush once it starts. So when someone blushes after doing wrong, they are displaying physical proof that they care about the judgment of the group. They are showing that the rules matter to them, even though they broke one. Evolution is brutally practical. It does not build expensive signals without a reason. And a blush is expensive. It makes you stand out at the exact moment you would rather disappear. The only reason such a costly signal would survive in the human species is that it pays for itself. It pays by making the blusher more likely to be forgiven, more likely to stay in the group, and more likely to survive. Let me show you the physiology behind why this works so well. Humans are the only primates that blush visibly, and part of the reason is anatomy. Our faces are mostly hairless. Our skin on the face is thin and packed with superficial blood vessels. We are the only ape that can broadcast blood flow through the skin of the face the way we do. A chimpanzee has the same sympathetic nervous system and some capacity for shame, but its face is covered in dark hair and thicker skin. A chimp's blush would be invisible. Ours is not. Evolution took a physiology that other primates have and turned it into a visible social signal by giving us a face built for broadcasting. Think about the contrast with the rest of your body. If you get embarrassed and your legs flush, nobody knows. Your forearms can turn pink without anyone noticing, but your face is the one part of your body that everyone watches. It is the front door of your identity. So it makes sense that the honesty signal would be installed exactly there, in the place that everyone is already looking at. The blush is not randomly placed. It is placed with intent, in the window of the human body. Now here is the part that makes blushing feel so cruel. The fear of blushing makes you blush. It is one of the easiest expressions to trigger. Simply being told that you might blush is often enough to cause a blush. The thought of turning red creates the self-focused attention that triggers the redness. This self-fulfilling loop is the engine behind erythrophobia, the fear of blushing. People who suffer from it become afraid of the social attention that the blush attracts, and that fear makes them blush more, which makes them more afraid. The cruelest part is that the fear is based on a miscalculation. De Jong's research showed that observers consistently judge blushers more favorably than blushers judge themselves. A person who blushes is convinced that everyone is thinking badly of them. The observers are actually thinking the opposite. They find the blusher more likable, more genuine, more human. The person on the inside of the blush is the only one who thinks it is a disaster. Let me give you a contrast to make the point sharper. Blushing is often confused with flushing, but they are not the same thing. Flushing from heat, alcohol, exercise, or anger is a whole body response. It involves widespread vasodilation, and it happens in animals too. A dog running hard flushes. A cat in a warm room flushes. Blushing is different. It is local, it is fast, and it is cognitive. It is triggered by the thought of being judged. It is the only skin color change in the animal kingdom that requires a mind to trigger it. There is a deeper layer to this that comes from evolutionary game theory. Researchers who study cooperation have long known that trust has a fundamental problem. How do you know that someone is telling the truth? The answer in game theory is called a costly signal. A signal only works if it is expensive to produce and impossible to fake. Think of a peacock. It is heavy, bright, and dangerous to carry, which is exactly why it proves that the peacock carrying it is healthy. The signal is trustworthy because it costs so much. The blush is a costly signal of exactly this kind. It costs you dignity. It costs you control. It costs you the ability to manage your own image. And that cost is precisely what makes it credible. A person who blushes has paid a real price to show their feelings. You cannot buy that signal with words. You cannot fake it with a smile. It is the peacock's tale of human honesty painted in blood. Consider what a group of early humans needed to survive. They needed to hunt together, share food, raise children, and defend against predators. All of that requires cooperation. And cooperation has a problem. Cheaters. A group falls apart if people can lie, steal, and betray without consequences. So evolution built detection systems. It built trust through reputation, and it built a way to prove that you are not a threat. That proof is the blush. When you blush, you are showing the group that you are not trying to get away with anything. You are showing that your emotions are real. You are showing that you can be trusted. In a species that lives by cooperation, That is not a weakness. It is a survival tool. There is a study that makes this point in a beautiful way. Researchers have found that blushing is contagious in a social sense. When one person blushes in a group, the others tend to respond with warmth, smiling, and reassurance. The blusher is not rejected, they are comforted. The group closes around them. That is what a signal is supposed to do. It is not a spotlight for predators. It is a signal that brings the tribe closer together. There is another domain where the blush does surprising work, and it is the one you probably remember best from your own life. Romance. People blush constantly around the people they are attracted to. A compliment from a crush can turn your entire face red in 2 seconds. And researchers have found that this is not a malfunction either. In studies of dating and attraction, observers rate blushing people as more attractive, more sincere, and more emotionally available. The blush signals that the person is not indifferent, that they care about the impression they are making, and that their feelings are genuine. In courtship, a blush says, "I am nervous because you matter to me." That is a signal that no amount of smooth talk can replace. It is one of the reasons that blushing has been a recurring theme in love poetry, novels, and romantic films for as long as humans have been telling stories. The blush also changes across a lifetime, and that change tells you something about its purpose. Children start to blush reliably around the age of 2 or 3, which is exactly when they develop a sense of self and start to care about what others think. That is the same window in which theory of mind switches on. Babies cannot blush socially because they do not yet have a self to expose. Toddlers can, and once they start, they never stop. In old age, blushing becomes rarer, partly because the autonomic response weakens, and partly because older people care less about the judgment of the group. The blush is strongest in the years when social standing matters most, when you are building your reputation, finding a partner, and climbing the social ladder. The signal is calibrated to the moments when you need it. Culture shapes the blush as well. Darwin discovered that the physical response is universal, but the situations that trigger it are not. In some cultures, people blush mainly about violations of modesty. In others, they blush about being praised in public. In others, they blush when they are caught doing something generous. The common thread is not the rule that was broken. It is the feeling of being the center of attention. Whatever the culture, the blush appears exactly when the self becomes visible to others. That is the deep structure underneath all the cultural variation. Modern life has not erased this. If anything, it has made the blush more important. Think about a video call. Every flicker of expression is magnified. When you say something awkward and your face goes red, everyone sees it in high definition. The same ancient signal is now broadcast over the internet. The hardware is hundreds of thousands of years old, but the network is new. Or think about a job interview, a first date, a meeting where you have to present in front of strangers. The fear of blushing is everywhere, and it is one of the most common social anxieties on the planet. The irony is that the very thing you fear is the thing that makes people like you more. The blush that you want to hide is the signal that makes you trustworthy in their eyes. If you have ever suffered from that fear, you already know the loop. You worry about blushing. The worry makes you self-conscious. The self-consciousness triggers the blush, and the blush confirms every fear you had. Psychologists call this anticipatory anxiety, and it is one of the hardest cycles to break precisely because the thing you are afraid of is the thing your body keeps producing. The way out is not to fight the blush, but to understand that it is working for you, not against you. There is one more layer worth thinking about, and it is the strangest one. Why would honesty need to be involuntary? In game theory, an honest signal works only if it cannot be faked. If everyone could fake a blush, the blush would be worthless. It would stop meaning anything. Evolution solved this problem by making the blush impossible to control. You cannot order your sympathetic nervous system to dilate your facial veins. It happens or it does not. That involuntary quality is exactly what gives the signal its power. The blush is trustworthy because you cannot lie with it. This is the deep insight hiding inside a red face. Trust is not built by promises. It is built by signals that are too expensive to fake. And the most human signal of all is the one that paints your feelings onto your face without asking your permission. Scientists can even turn the blush on and off in the laboratory. Now, in modern studies, participants are asked to sing a song in front of strangers or to watch a video of themselves performing an embarrassing task, and their faces are monitored with thermal cameras that measure the heat radiating from the cheeks. The results are beautifully consistent. The face warms within seconds of the embarrassing moment, the blood vessels in the cheeks dilate, and the temperature spike is visible to the camera before the person is even consciously aware that they are blushing. The signal is faster than thought. It fires before your mind catches up. That is how deeply this system is embedded in the body. It does not wait for permission because it was built long before you had a choice. So the next time you feel the heat rising in your cheeks, do not fight it. Do not panic. Do not run from the room. Everyone in that room has just received a message from your body. And the message is, I am a real person. My feelings are real, and I am not trying to hide anything from you. That is not weakness. That is the most honest thing a human can broadcast. You are not losing control. You are showing your cards. Your face is telling the truth.